Over at DC Comics, the publisher is looking to resurrect the Batman the Brave and the Bold Anthology series with a bit of a Dawn of DC twist. Kicking off this issue is superstar creative team Tom King on writing duties for the tale alongside artist Mitch Gerads, recounting one of the first meetings with Batman and the Joker. Plus, we have a story that's going to show off writing debut over from Dan Mora, an artist that's very acclaimed over at DC Comics. And plus, we're going to take another look at how Wildstorm is converging into the DC universe. My name is Arako Braddock, and today let's go ahead and dive into the pages of Batman the Brave and the Bold, issue number 1, to see if this book can live up to its impressive creative team. But before we dive deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and share our solicitation text behind the first story in this anthology collection. Coming off the spectacular success of Batman One Bad Day the Riddler, the Eisner Award-winning creative team of Tom King and Mitch Gerads reunite for a horrifying 4-part retelling of the first bloody clash between the Joker and the Batman. A tale of loathing, lies, and laughter, this may be the most frightening Joker story in a generation. And the first story is called Batman the Winning Card. It's written over from Tom King, featuring artwork from Mitch Gerads and letters from Clayton Cowles. And I want to go ahead and show off the cover over for Batman the Brave and the Bold issue 1, illustrated over from Simone Di Meo. Really like the kind of epic pose that Batman is striking over on the cover for Batman Brave and the Bold issue number 1. Want to go ahead and extend a big thank you over to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting this preview of the issue so incredibly fast. And let's go ahead and dive into this Batman the Winning Card story written by Tom King with art from Mitch Gerads. So in terms of some of Tom King's writing over in the DC universe, I've been really dismayed by some of the adult themes that kind of take part in several of his stories that we've gotten across so many, I think, Tom King written books. And I do think that this first story kind of falls in the trap that so many collaborations with Tom King and Mitch Gerads falls into. Essentially, when a lot of writers take control, kind of crafting a story centered around the Joker, oftentimes they want to tell sort of really edgy stories that lean into the violence of the character. But when you have sort of nothing interesting to say about the Joker that's really going to differentiate itself, at the end of the day, he ends up just making sort of random acts of violence kind of throughout the issue and essentially traumatizing the character he's working with. Of course, Batman gets in the middle of this, sort of apprehends the Joker and is able to kind of, resist over against the Joker. But still, within the context of this story, it was so disappointing to see Tom King kind of fall into some of those same traps with his writing. I did like some of the artwork from Mitch Gerads, but due to the fact that Mitch Gerads has collaborated with Tom King so many times in so many different contexts, I don't feel like he's being challenged that much over in this title. Still, several kind of pages in the artwork over in the issue are really bold. I especially love the one that we were looking at earlier over with this 9-panel grid over in the issue. I would say, in terms of some of the things I really want to see this book kind of correct in future tales in the story, is I want to see the sort of animosity between Batman and the Joker die down. I want to learn something interesting about the Joker that isn't violent, and I want to get more immersed in his character towards kind of future issues of the series. Also, I would really say that in terms of some of the edgy dialogue from the Joker itself, Tom King really needs to make sure that he has something profound to say that other kind of writers haven't navigated towards. Because, telling a story with the Joker sort of, running off with a small child and giving, the small child a little bit of PTSD with the dark things that the Joker says is just one of the most contrived ways to kind of craft a narrative, especially with the Joker, that I can possibly think of. So really hoping that kind of future issues of the series will bring this book into another direction that's a little bit more interesting to read. I want to go ahead and talk about the next story in the collection. This one is called Stormwatch, Down with the Kings. It's written by Ed Brisson, featuring illustrations from Jeff Spokes and letters from Saida, Temofonte. Want to go ahead and read our solicitation text from DC on this one as well. The Justice League may be gone, but its enemies aren't. Who will protect the world from the worst of the worst? Ed Brisson and Jeff Spokes pick up the story they started in the Wildstorm 30th anniversary special as director Bones and his new covert Stormwatch team travel the globe on Black Ops missions to take superpowered weapons of mass destruction off the board. But this is Stormwatch, and as always, it's not as it seems. Down with the Kings starts here. So I really have to say, in terms of this Down with the King story, this was a absolutely kind of fascinating tale that did a really fantastic job kind of remixing the Wildstorm status quo, showing how it kind of, integrates over into the DC universe and just adding kind of so much nuance and intrigue to the DC universe as well. It's so fascinating when you take a look at all the characters that make up this brand new Stormwatch team. It's characters who you wouldn't have anticipated as well, kind of ranging across the DC universe, with everybody from Ravager over to Peacekeeper 1, as well as kind of touching on some of writer Ed Brisson's plot threads over in Batman Incorporated with Phantom 1. The way that this issue kind of pulls together all these like disparate plot threads, fuses them with Wildstorm characters, and then shows you the way that this team kind of navigates over with director Bones and the sort of dawn of DC status quo is absolutely intoxicating. I think of all of the tales, this was my favorite one in the collection because it was so fascinating to spend kind of those first moments over with the new Stormwatch team. Really appreciated that there was kind of a weatherman introduced in this issue as well. And I'm just kind of so fascinated to watch the further adventures of this team, to see where they head to next over in the DC universe. I really enjoyed the artwork over from Jeff Spokes. I think some of the line work from Jeff Spokes in this second story will really go ahead and add something to kind of the overall narrative, because the line work is just so clean and precise and manages to capture so many aspects about this character. I love how towards the end of the book, Ed Brisson kind of brings in Bones for a little bit of kind of political intrigue around the makeup of the team. So I was so captivated across so many of the story threads across this tale. I think both the writing and the artwork are absolutely wonderful here. Let's go ahead and talk about the next story. This one is called Superman Order of the Black Lamp. It's written by Christopher Cantwell, featuring illustrations from Javier Rodriguez and letters by Simon Bowland. The Order of the Black Lamp Part 1 from writer Christopher Cantwell and artist Javier Rodriguez. Superman finds a decoder ring with the secret message, "Save me," which sends him on a quest to solve the mystery with ties to the Man of Steel's past. And out of all the stories in the collection, this was another one that I really, really enjoyed. I was really fascinated to see what kind of Christopher Cantwell would bring over to kind of the Superman world, the Superman universe over at DC. And I think we really got off on the right foot here. Was really fascinated with how much time Cantwell spent tying kind of this Superman story over to the continuity of Dawn of DC. Another thing I really liked about this tale too were some of the captions in the story as well. It was super intriguing to read kind of some of these stories. I think Christopher Cantwell does such a wonderful job writing a really great relationship between Superman and Lois. And oh boy, we haven't even talked about Javier Rodriguez yet. I love Javier Rodriguez's work over on books like Daredevil. And I think the way that he kind of captures these really sort of like weird, candid expressions from the characters manages to capture so much characterization through the artwork alone in this tale. The way that Rodriguez structures the page, sort of uses bleeds and negative space across the issue, is just absolutely wonderful. I was so shocked at just how kind of beautiful and abstract the artwork is over in this particular issue. And kind of like the deeper you go, it's almost like the weirder some of the page structures get over in this series. I hope that Christopher Cantwell and Javier Rodriguez will continue to kind of push the limit of the comic book medium. Would love to see them work together on an even long form story over in the DC universe too. I really like how this book kind of tries to characterize Lois and Clark over in a more sort of like plainclothes setting where they're working together on business and trying to make something work. I love the fact that the kind of plot of the issue is just so kind of simple and tied into the current status quo over with Clark and Lois in the narrative. Can't say enough good things about the Superman Order of the Black Lamp. I think it was just a phenomenal tale over in this issue. Let's go ahead and wrap things up with our last story. This one is called Heroes of Tomorrow, written by Dan Mora, featuring some work over from Tom Napolitano as well. Superstar artist Dan Mora makes his writing debut, kicking off a new series of Batman black and white short stories. In a Gotham City overrun by the cybernetic henchmen of the Joker, the only person who can save us is the mysterious motorcycle riding bat costume hero of urban legend. All right, so I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about this last tale over from Dan Mora. I really thought that Dan Mora's art translated incredibly well to kind of the black and white medium over at DC Comics, and I thought for the most part that Dan Mora's writing was pretty easy to follow, very concise over in the issue. It's kind of interesting how there's kind of an alternate version of Gotham City that Dan Mora is able to kind of explore throughout this tale. It was a little bit refreshing to get something that was so kind of eager to pull into action and just get so many kind of rudimentary and cool aspects of the DC universe. Really enjoyed kind of everything that Dan Mora did over in this story. If I could complain about one kind of particular element to it, I would like to see kind of more elements of Batman kind of continuity processed here, and in terms of the writing, would definitely like to see more kind of plot threads for Mora to pick up over in kind of future issues of the tale. But I think in terms of the artwork, there's something to be said about seeing Mora's work over in the context of a black and white style, and would love to see kind of future issues from Dan Mora in black and white as well, with maybe some different writers over behind this issue to tell kind of a really precise story, even with the same continuity. I think this new version of Gotham that Dan Mora established is actually pretty interesting here over in the issue. So those are kind of some of my thoughts over on Batman, the Brave and the Bold #1 as a whole. I think there's some really great stories in this issue. The winner for me has to be Stormwatch, Down with the Kings. I thought the way that DC kind of steadily infused their Wildstorm narrative along with some aspects of Dawn of DC was absolutely enthralling. Also really loved Superman Order of the Black Lamp from Christopher Cantwell and Javier Rodriguez. That book had just the right tone, just the right sense of artwork. And I just love how the kind of decoder ring brings in all this weird kind of historical elements of comics that are so interesting to see. I want to know from you, what were some of your thoughts over on Batman, the Brave and the Bold #1? Did you like Tom King and Mitch Gerads' Batman, the winning card, more than I did? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for coming to check out our video, and we'll be back for everything DC related, especially in the context of Dawn of DC in the very near future. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.